What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to go over making the profile page and pulling the user's data from Firebase. So let me show you what that's going to look like when it's done. So down here in the corner we're going to have a profile icon. If you click on that, you'll see this is an anonymous user right now, so its name and email are just marked anonymous, and it does show us the created date. If we do change this to a permanent user, which that button will be right there, and we go back to the profile with the user now, you'll see all of that information is there, and we can have the user sign out at this point. All right, let's get started. All right, so we're logged into the app here just as a regular user. The first thing we're going to do are remove these two buttons up in the navigation here and actually change our past trips down here, this past trips page, to be a profile page. So go ahead and find the file that's called the navigation view, and if you scroll down a little bit, you can see we have our past trips here, and up above that we have our convert user and our sign out button. So let's just comment out the sign out and the convert user button and then reload this, and you'll see now we just have the plus button there. To change the past trips, we're going to call this now the profile. And I think this is just going to be better because now that we've been building the app, I'm thinking past trips is going to be kind of like a version 2 feature, or we're going to just put it on the home page and just split it up here. So this tab can definitely now be the profile, and this will be, let's use what we were using up here for the profile icon, which is the account circle. So just change that. Great, so that looks good. Now if you click it, you'll notice nothing really happens except that this page turns orange. So this orange page, if you remember from way back in the beginning, is actually under the pages .dart file here, which is just a class that's called past trips page. So we're actually no longer going to use this, but we do want to create a new file. So in the views, just create a new Dart file, and we're going to call this the profile view. So then in this profile view, we're going to need to import material, and there's a few other packages we'll need, but right now let's just create this as a stateless widget and name this the profile view. All right, so inside this container that's returning, we can just set the color to be, let's actually make this something different than orange, and we'll do colors dot purple. And now we can see if we click this, it's still the orange background, and that's because we didn't actually start calling the profile view. So go back into the navigation file, and up at the actual very top here, we have this list, which is actually defining what views each of our navigation items are. So you'll notice the third one here is the past trips page. So instead, make that the profile view. And you'll see we're getting an error there. We do actually also need to import that profile view. So we can import profile view.dart. And now if we save that and click the profile, you'll see we're getting that purple page, which is actually our profile view. So that's good. All right, so in this container here, the first thing we can do is actually just wrap this container widget in a single child scroll view. So that'll just allow this to scroll if anything runs off the page. Now inside the container, we can actually just change the container to a column. And then the column will allow us to have multiple widgets as children. So really we're only going to have one right now, but I feel like later we can be adding more in. Since we're going to be calling Firebase, we need to actually do a future builder here, and this is going to make a call to our Firebase Auth service and get our users' information back, and then we can use we can write another custom widget that will display that information. So let's go ahead and write the future builder here. The future builder will have a future parameter, which is going to actually be what we call our data. So we're going to use, again, that provider that we set up. And that provider has the, it takes the context, and then it actually has that auth method on it that we can use to get any of our auth functions we can access. So in our auth service, up at the top, you'll see we do have one that's called getUID. So let's just, for now, call getUID here, just to show you that this is working. You'll notice provider is not in here, so you do need to import the provider here. and then that should work. So now we need to also give this the builder, and this is basically what we're going to do once we have the data back, or this is how the future builder is handled. So this, we're going to get a snapshot. If our snapshot is has a connection state which is done, so that would mean that our auth call is finished, then we can go ahead and display some information. So here we would return a, we can just return text for now. And then if it's not done, then we want to return actually some sort of, we'll do the circle bar navigator, or the circle progress indicator. So this will just kind of have like a spinner if while this is loading. So it looks like we have an error here. Oh, okay. The error here is actually this needs to be 2 equals because we're comparing these two variables. We're not setting this equal to that. So there we go. If you save and run this and you go to the page, you'll see it just says done, but we actually want that UID here. So if we were to instead call snapshot data here, and that would actually need to be wrapped in this because it's a string. And now if you click on it, you'll see we do get that UID, which is actually being called right up here. So we don't want the UID at all, but that was just kind of to show you how we can call these auth service functions. We actually want to create a new auth service function that's going to return our entire user's data. So pretty much, as you can see in this function, we get the current user, and then we're limiting it to just the UID that's returned. So we want to pretty much get the whole user. This will be a future as well. We call this get current user. The current user is going to have all the data that we need in it. So this will be async as well, and then we're just going to return essentially this part where we call Firebase for the current user, and we can save that. So now if you go up here and call get current user, you'll see it prints out now that it's printing out just an instance of the user as a platform user, which is pretty good. But we want the data, and then if we called data and then display name and save that, you'll see now it is printing out my name there. So this user object, which is becoming the snapshot data object, actually has a few parameters that we can use. Let's, instead of returning text here, call another widget that builds this. So we are going to call that display user information. So let's copy this, and down here we'll have a new widget. And this display user information is what we're going to call here. Now we will have to give this a few parameters, mainly just the context, as well as we want to give it the snapshot itself. Then down here we need to allow those parameters into the widget. All right, and now we can just return this, and you'll see everything should be the same. But now we can start unwrapping the snapshot data a little bit more. Firstly, we can call a variable. We can set a variable here to be just the user. And we can set that equal to, and actually that's going to need a final in front of it because this is not going to change. And we can set that equal to the snapshot data. And then we can call this, and this is really just to make things a little bit easier to read and call. Then we can call the user here and their display name, and you'll see that's still in the return. We can leave that in the return, but we want to return more than just this, so we're going to return actually a column here. And then within that column, we can have multiple widgets, one of which will be this display name. And let's format that a little bit better. All right, so if we want to, we can just add a quick bit of padding on this. I think that will make it look a little bit nicer. Also, let's go ahead and quick add text style here to be just a font size bigger, maybe 20. Now if we save this and okay, looks like I actually have an error there. We just need a semicolon, and then you can see the name's a little bit bigger. If we wanted to, I mean, we can get We don't need to go too much into how we're going to style this, but you can kind of just put name in front of there, and that looks good. Now this padding object kind of becomes what a element is going to be from that user. So the next thing we can do is the email. And instead of display name, we're going to just call email. And again, this is all the user data, which is coming back from this snapshot, which is actually coming back from being called from this getCurrentUser method on our auth provider, which is one of our auth service instances, because our auth service instance is actually what's set to be this this auth element on our provider. And then we're just getting all this information from this getCurrentUser, which is really just calling Firebase Auth getCurrentUser. So it's, I don't know, if you haven't been following along and you're just jumping in, it might seem a little bit confusing, but I think if you have been following along with all the other videos, this should make a good bit of sense, because it's kind of the same way we've been calling anything else in Firebase Auth. But continuing on, yeah, the email, if we load this, it should show us the email as well. Good. All right, this is looking a little funny right now. Let's actually just center all of the content here. So actually, if we go back up to the column here, we can actually wrap the column in a container, and then inside that container, we can just give it a width of basically of the width of the screen, which is going to be our media query dot. We actually need of context there, and then we can do the size and the width. And this should, by default, it should center everything. So now our name and our email are centered. The next thing we can do, because we don't really have a ton of information on this user, the next thing we can do is get their, pretty much when they signed up. So this would be like their created time. We can get this with the metadata of this user. So the user, we want to call metadata on first. And then inside that metadata, there's actually a created time. It's actually creation time, not created. And you'll see we get that date, which isn't really formatted that nicely. So if you remember, we do have that function, or we do have a way to convert this, which is pretty simple. You can just do date format. And actually, this does require us to import something. So it's intl is what we have to import. So import that package. And then down here, we can do our date format. And then we can just give the date format as a string. So we're going to want the month, the day, and the year. Then you call format on this. And then you can just give it the date, which I deleted user there, so we need to bring that back and end the parenthesis there. So now if you save this, it's going to just give us the date that the person signed up. Cool. So this is pretty much the only information we know about this user in Firebase. Potentially we could later on add some other statistics, maybe like, you know, how many trips they have or stuff like that. But for now, we're just going to keep it simple at this. All right, so now we actually want to add the buttons on here. And if you're an anonymous user, we're going to have a button that lets you convert your account to be a permanent account. If you are a permanent user already, then we're going to let you sign out on this page. So we're going to do this in another widget. So this widget will be, we can call it whatever, show button, show sign out. So show sign out, and this is going to take the context, because we are going to have links in here, and then it's also going to take an is anonymous bool value, and that way we'll know if the user is anonymous or not. So up here, actually, we can already call this, and if you put this here, the context we already know because we passed that in earlier. And is anonymous, we can actually tell because the user object has an is anonymous method on it, or an is anonymous parameter in it. So that parameter is just going to return true or false. So at this point, we should be set. The only thing we have to do is display the two buttons depending on which user we are. So first, let's just check which user we are. So if we are is if anonymous is true, this means we are an anonymous user, and we want to return a button. So it's going to be a raised button, and it will be the child element, which is really just the text of the button, is going to be, well, let's say, you know, sign in to save your data, I guess. Because again, this is an anonymous user. So the on pressed here will be the same that we have in our navigation view that we commented out where we had the icon before. We can actually just comment or copy that whole thing there and paste it right here, and then remove the comments and format that. So again, this is just going to link us to the convert user path, which we have set up in our, I believe it's in the main page. We have our routes here, convert user, which is actually going to go to our signup view with our auth form type of convert. So that looks like it should work. The other thing then is we can add a semicolon here. We're going to put the else statement here, and this means that the user is not anonymous, so it would be a permanent user already. So at this point, we're going to allow them to sign out. So again, we're going to return a raised button. This one is going to just say sign out, and then the on pressed for this again is already in our navigation view. It's what we commented out. It's the on pressed right here that we used to have for the icon. So we can actually just copy that and paste that in right here and remove all these and format. So you'll see we have our auth service here now because we're calling the auth service directly. You don't need to do that actually. The auth here is our auth provider, so we can just get rid of this whole line and put this right here, which I feel like reads better on one line, but when you format it, it breaks it up. So again, it's just that provider, that auth instance, and then we're calling sign out. If it's signed out, it's also printing it. You don't really need that, but that's kind of just logging. And then if there's an error, it'll log the error. That can have a semicolon as well. So if you save this, right now we are logged in as a permanent user, so we should see the sign out button. So if we go to the profile, you'll see sign out. So then we can actually hit the sign out, and then to test the anonymous one, we can hit get started, and maybe later is what creates our anonymous user. So there you go. If you go to the profile, you'll see the name and email are both null, and that's because this is an anonymous user. That doesn't look great. There are a few ways we can handle this, one of which is, not display this at all. Another one is to just leave it blank. Another one is to write anonymous instead of null. We're going to go with that third one there, but all of them, it's kind of personal preference of what you want to show. So to change the name to anonymous if it is null, it's actually pretty simple. You can do 2 question marks, which is basically going to check if this variable here is null, and then if it is null, it's going to do this over here instead. So we can put anonymous, and we can just basically copy this and do the same thing on the email. And now if we save and look at this, you'll see both of them are anonymous. If we do sign in, and we can just call this whatever. Basically now we created an account for that originally anonymous user. You can see all of this information was updated. If we were to sign out, we can both sign back in as that user, which this is just old. To show you, this is just stuff that used to work. I mean, this is already set up in the app, which is kind of like converting anonymous users and all of that, but now it's all on the profile page. You will notice the profile page is kind of bland right now. It's really just showing you these 3 simple pieces of data. I'm gonna leave it like that for now. I'm not fully sure what other information I'm gonna put on this, but for now, that's good, and it does serve its purpose of the sign out and convert button. But yes, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. All right, ciao for now.